And welcome. It is time for the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com. So happy to be here on this windy, rainy Tuesday afternoon. But if you're hearing this on the weekend, you are hearing a replay because we replay throughout the week. Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. We're talking all things legal, all things constitutional. Richard, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm glad to see the clouds are cooperating and greening our grass.
Yeah, absolutely. We're having a good time here, you guys. Any questions or comments about the show, past broadcasts, give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. Also broadcasting live on Facebook. Check us out at facebook.com/CRN Talk. We're going to have a good time today. We got three things on the agenda. We're briefly going to discuss the confirmation hearings today that Attorney William Barr, who's the Trump administration's, he's their selection to replace Jeff Sessions, former Attorney General. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Obamacare and also how that relates to the Constitution and how that relates to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 about the tax and spend clause. We're going to talk a lot about that and also incorporate some views from one of our great heroes on this show, Thomas Jefferson, how he would have felt about that. Then we're also going to talk about an interesting case that just recently came out of the Ninth Circuit regarding the gun control and illegal immigration, two very, very interesting issues, very divisive issues, and it's U.S. versus Torres. Anybody wants to look it up, we're going to be talking about that. So, Richard, first off, William Barr. He appeared in front of Congress today, as we've seen before, a very political situation there. What did you think? What do you think about William Barr, and what do you think about the hearings today so far?
Well, it looks like even Dianne Feinstein thinks he's going to make it. I guess he will. He was able to say he didn't know in a number of questions that were asked, and he refused to allow the Democrats to put him in a box. They asked him to recuse himself if this happened or if that happened, and he said, no, I can't commit myself to recusal at this point. It will depend on the facts of the matter at the time. But I think he's a pretty good man. I think he'll make it.
He said something interesting to me in his confirmation hearing that, Jeff Sessions, he was very strict about the state's uses of marijuana. If a state, a lot of states, I believe over 20 states, have either decriminalized or legalized medicinal or recreational marijuana use. And Jeff Sessions, he said his Justice Department would continue to enforce federal law. And William Barr said, as if he was confirmed as Attorney General, which we all suspect he will be, yes, that he's going to kind of have more of a hands-off approach regarding that. But I want to talk a little bit more about that and just kind of the political posturing of these confirmation hearings. It's really become, I think that the Senate has become, really not using their role as advice and consent when it comes to nominations and is using it as political grandstanding. So we're going to talk about that right after the break. You guys stick around and join by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, noted author of America, Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes. Make sure to check out his personal website, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. That website's available also in the description of all of our past sessions available on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, search CRN Talk, and find the Richard Nixon Live playlist. Stick around, you guys. We're going to have a good time this hour talking all things legal, all things constitutional with Mr. Richard Nixon, Esquire. I'll be right back right after the break. CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines, and you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644, 800-915-2644.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live here, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, a noted author, American Illusion of Freedom, a veteran. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Amateur Congo player and Corvette aficionado. And briefly, I want to talk about these confirmation hearings that Mr. William Barr has been facing. Some might say. What do you think, Richard? Do you think? I mean, Kamala Harris tried to take shots at Dick Durbin, tried to take shots at him, and asking him how he would, vote, how if he would recuse himself under certain situations, and how could a man, make such sweeping statements when not knowing the facts of what's before him?
Yes, the whole tone of the left in this hearing, kind of the shades of Kavanaugh's hearing, if you will, is so many of the questions were directed at how would you go about unseating the president? Would you be fair and so on? I find that so unbelievable that the left seems to be more concerned with ridding this country of our president than anything else.
The political posturing, I think, is a little bit disingenuous. It's, the Constitution says that Congress is one of its core duties is to provide advice and consent to the president, the administration, on appointments and nominees. And it doesn't seem like they're providing any advice or consent. It seems like they just want to get themselves on TV.
Well, not only that, but they criticized the Justice Department and the FBI for not doing certain things. And Barr, in a very polite, courteous way, said, "Sir, it would be very easy for you guys to pass the laws. You're the ones that aren't doing your job." Now, I'm paraphrasing, but that's exactly what he was saying to them. Don't look at us for not enforcing the law. You could write the law and fix it now.
And some might say, and this is a perfect opportunity for a segue, some might say that they did their duty by passing laws when it comes to the Obamacare. Recently there was a judge in Texas, down there in Texas, who he ruled that made a pretty important fundamental ruling regarding Obamacare in terms of the individual mandates. Give us some background, Richard, on the individual mandate and where, how that leads us moving forward with Obamacare.
Yes. Well, there was a recent article, we referred to the Daily Journal quite a bit. There's a recent article by Professor John M. Minan, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, M-I-N-A-N. He's a professor at the University of San Diego. And essentially what he said is that a judge in the Northern District of Texas has found that according to the tax proposals that Trump was responsible for, that the tax portion, the mandate, has been declared invalid, and therefore, based upon Judge O'Connor's position, the whole of Obamacare must fail. And there's some question as to whether or not, because of this concept called severability, whether if you have a large document like Obamacare, where one portion is found to be unconstitutional, does the rest necessarily fall? And that concept is called severability. Can it survive without it? And in his estimation, that is Judge O'Connor's estimation, since the only two bases for Obamacare was this mandated tax or the Commerce Clause, and the Supreme Court has already ruled out the Commerce Clause as a basis for it, and now the Trump administration has ruled out the tax mandate. There is no basis for Obamacare, and it should fail. However, just to put a capper on it, this judge, being very thoughtful, I think, did not render his opinion immediately enforceable, but said he would hold off until an appropriate appeal was heard.
Well, just to paraphrase, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm speaking to an expert right here, and I'm just a layman. But so the reason that the Obamacare stood as constitutional previously in the previous legal challenges of the Supreme Court regarding the individual mandate. The individual mandate says that, hey, you got to pay. No matter what, anybody out there, if you don't pay for the Affordable Care Act, you will be subject to fine. And the last time this was in front of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote an opinion stating that the mandate was not a penalty, but rather a tax.
Yes.
And therefore, because it was levied by Congress, Congress in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, can levy taxes upon the citizenry, that was a tax, therefore is constitutional. And this judge in Texas is saying, no, that's not right.
No, this judge is saying that he agrees that it's a tax, but because the subsequent congressional action, that is the Trump tax cuts, they basically said the mandatory tax was no longer valid.
Okay.
They
Oh, I see. Okay.
extracted it, or what's the word I'm looking for? Repealed it, so that it wasn't a court that did it. It was a valid tax until the Trump administration and Congress passed the law. And one of the things when they reduced the taxes in 2017 was to do away with that mandate.
So the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, passed unanimously
Yes.
by the Congress at the time and signed by the president, that repealed the tax that would be known as
Exactly.
the individual mandate. And so now, therefore, the Obamacare can't stand because it's an unfunded mandate.
Exactly. And as this writer said, there are only two bases for it, either the tax, and that's been repealed, or the Commerce Clause. And the Supreme Court itself, back in 2012, said that the Commerce Clause basis for jurisdiction was unconstitutional. So in his mind, in this Judge O'Connor's mind, this Obamacare must fail. But again, in order to lessen the upset, if you will, of his decision, he's allowed the existing laws to remain until sometime that an appeals court makes some kind of decision.
Just from my reading of this case and from your, the way that you've explained it to me, Richard, I mean, my brothers and sisters on the left would have really a hard time, screaming at this judge saying he's a partisan hack by,
Yes.
quote, eliminating Obamacare by striking down this mandate because, hey, elections have consequences. The House of Representatives, legislative branch, and therefore the president passed a law, signed a bill eliminating this tax. And so therefore, I mean, this judge isn't doing anything out of bounds.
No, he isn't. And in fact, yes, you're right. In passing Obamacare, the legislature was doing its job, and the Roberts Court acknowledged that and found Obamacare constitutional. And in this, by the same token, the Trump administration and Congress was doing their job by eliminating that mandatory tax. So they're both acting properly. We may not like their decision politically, but as far as acting properly within the Constitution, both were.
Absolutely. And, we're going to get into this to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 right after the break. It's very fascinating where this, this all came from. The quote, just the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide the common defense and, quote, general welfare, unquote, of the United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform to the United States. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about general welfare, the implications on that. And I want to ask Richard on what our friend Thomas Jefferson would think of all of this. So stick around, you guys. We'll be right back. Richard Nixon, we're having a good time here in the Legal Lounge on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Shoot Richard an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com, or join the conversation on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/crntalk. Go to videos, and you can watch us right there in all our splendid glory. We'll be right back, you guys. Stick around with us right here. Legal Lounge, Richard Nixon, crntalk.com.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master plan destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Ka'anapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Ka'anapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare Timeshare Exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. 800-716-9903. That's 800-716-9903.
Hi everyone, this is Fred Dreyer telling you about my favorite Italian restaurant. It's Angelo's and Vinci's in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's has the best pasta, the best seafood, the best salad, spaghetti, lasagna, and the most incredible pizza. And the chicken is delicious. Marsala, piccata, cacciatore, parmigiana, and more. For desserts, try our spumoni or our tiramisu, my favorite, flown in fresh from Italy. And the cannolis and the zeppolis are out of this world. Open for lunch and dinner, and don't miss the Sunday champagne brunch. Just $21.95, are you kidding? It's all up the road from Disneyland at 550 North Harbor Boulevard in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's, like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Call 714-879-4022 or visit us online at angeloandvincis.com.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live, streaming live coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk Radio. That's crntalk.com, facebook.com/CRN Talk. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a practicing attorney, noted author of America, Illusion of Freedom, a scientist, Corvette aficionado, and also amateur conga player.
Very amateur.
Yeah, no, you don't give yourself enough credit. A quick note here. We, at the office here, because we're a digital station, we do syndicate tons of programs to terrestrial radio, but there's a product that we recently got here at the office that I want to talk about. I know Richard's receiving this product as well. And this is not a paid endorsement or anything like that. I just love the product. Have one at my house. We have several at the office. I have one at my desk as well. It's called a C-Crane radio. It's an internet radio. It's a little box. It's about the size of like a clock radio, but it is a radio that picks up any internet stream that you can imagine. You can pick up CRN Digital Talk Radio, all of our networks. You can pick up Fox Business. You can pick up CNN Business. Any terrestrial station that also has an online component. It's a C-Crane radio. They're very affordable, very easy to use, a fantastic product. And like I said, we are not paid endorsers. We're just fans of their product. So I just want to throw that out.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's move on. So, interesting enough, we were talking about Obamacare, and we were talking about Congress and the tax and spend clause. And Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution. Richard, it's kind of got an original sin in it. There's something wrong with this whole situation here. Can kind of give us a background on what's going on here with Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1?
We mentioned the article by Professor Minen. The very first thing he starts with, and by the way, his article is very well written, logical by the classical logic standards, but he starts off by saying Article 1, Section 8 grants a number of enumerated powers to enact laws, including the power to lay and collect taxes and to regulate commerce. And then he says, in order to be constitutional, any law passed by Congress must be based on an enumerated power. Well, that's just a bit, I hate to use the word naive because he's a professor. He certainly knows probably as much or more than I do about that particular section. However, Article 1, Section 8 lists the, if you will, 18 powers that the Constitution gave Congress. Mm-hmm. And it starts off by saying, the Congress shall have the power to 1, 2, 3, and so on, and to establish post offices, to borrow money on the credit of the United States. In other words, if it's not in one of these enumerated powers, Congress does not have that power. Well, here's the rub. If you look at number 1, which is what we're talking about in Professor Minen's article, it says the Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Now, it was clear from the beginning, according, and Thomas Jefferson wrote to that effect, that that was not a separate power from the other 17. In other words, some people argued that number one was a separate power from the other 17, and Thomas Jefferson wrote that if that were the case, that number one was a separate power, then anyone could argue that anything Congress did for the general welfare was part of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1, and therefore they could tax for it. And he said, if that's the case, then the rest of these numbers, 2 through 17, are redundant. So it was clear by, again, classical logic that Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 was to be limited to those other enumerated powers. So in other words, if the Congress has the right to borrow money on the credit of the United States, it has the right to tax in order to borrow that money. So that's how number one fits into the other 17. It was never intended to be a separate power. But under Obamacare, Justice Roberts, and Professor Minan, number one, Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 is deemed a separate power.
This seems interesting to me in twofold. First of all, because, like you said, with Power 1, I mean, the rest of the 17 powers are redundant because it just says right there that we can do whatever we want. Number two, and I want to talk more about this after the break, is that the common defense and, quote, general welfare. And like you said, Richard, so eloquently, is that general welfare can be interpreted in many different ways. Right. And it has been by both the administration and by both the courts. The Obama administration, I think that their position was that the individual mandate and Obamacare in general was, quote, for the general welfare of the citizenry. I think also John Roberts agreed with that in his Supreme Court decision. And I want to talk about that and the way that the term general welfare can be used in all different connotations and denotations in the law itself. So we're going to get into that right after the break, you guys. Stick around. We'll be right back. Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Shoot us an email, you guys, at richardnixon@crntalk.com, and check us out on Facebook. Facebook.com/CRN Talk. Just go to videos and we're right there. And all of our previous episodes are available on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com, search CRN Digital Talk, and find the Richard Nixon playlist.
When you really want Italian food, you have got to get to Columbo's. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club, Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Or enter the new year, new challenges, new people and places. But isn't it good to know that some things remain the same? And that's Columbo's. Columbo's is something you can always count on. Great steaks, the finest fish, Columbo's family Italian specialties, jazz every night, and the world's greatest meatballs, and service that makes you feel at home. What's surprising is that Columbo's has been doing it right since 1954 and still going strong. And Valentine's Day is right around the corner. It's time to make your reservation. 323-254-9138. 323-254-9138. Columbo's. You know, that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Columbo's. Manja.
You check things all the time, like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Well, Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Discover is now offering FICO credit scores to everyone for free, even if you're not a customer. And checking your score won't hurt your credit. We call it the Discover Credit Scorecard. And once you know your score, you should check to see if your current credit card is the best fit for you. Check your credit, compare your card. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Picture yourself and your loved one saying, I do, with a stunning sunset behind you and the sound of the waves gently lapping the shore. We can make that dream wedding come true. Ka'anapali Beach Hotel offers oceanfront and ocean view venues for a perfect backdrop to all your wedding memories. Choose from our wedding and vow renewal packages or let us customize a ceremony just for you. Call 661-0011 or visit ka'anapaliweddings.com and let us help you create that once-in-a-lifetime occasion.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it. Call Quit Drugs 321 now at 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315. That's 800-378-3315.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live here in the Legal Lounge and CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Broadcasting live coast to coast around the world, crntalk.com. Available on Amazon Alexa, on C-Crane Radio. Available also on facebook.com/crntalk. Anywhere you can find us, we are there. And we're talking about the tax and spend clause, which is a colloquialism which is known for Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. And, the nebulous concept of the provisions known as the General Welfare Clause. And, Richard, in your great book, I underlined this and, about your powers, the express powers of the legislature, and that in Federalist 45, James Madison states, the powers delegated by the proposed constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which remain to the state governments and are numerous and indefinite. But with the General Welfare Clause, as it's known, I mean, anything can really happen. For example, let's say that the Democrats take the Senate next term, and our friend from New York, the very lovely Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, she decides to pass her Green New Deal, and with massive tax increases on the wealthy. And she says, hey, global warming, climate change, hey, we believe in it, and we think that it's a detriment to the general welfare of the United States, and therefore they can pass a massive tax. Am I on the right track here?
You are on the right track, and that's why there's a real problem as far as the left and right goes, because the right believes, if you will, that Thomas Jefferson was correct, and that we cannot stray from the express 17 powers that Congress was given under the Constitution, and that Article 1, Section 8, Clause number 1 is not a separate power, but is to be interpreted consistent with the other 17. Let me just say again, I paraphrased what Jefferson had said, but let me quote what he said here. Thomas Jefferson said, if we did that, it would reduce the whole instrument to a single phrase, meaning the Constitution, and that of instituting a Congress with power to do whatever would be for the good of the United States, and as they would be the sole judges of the good or evil, it would be also a power to do whatever evil they pleased. So in other words, too much power in one hand.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the co-equal branches of government in this case, and there needs to be some sort of checks and balances about the whole thing. And I think we have to take our friend Thomas Jefferson, one of the most brilliant people out there in the history of our country. And one of the themes of our show too is the Constitution of your great book, American Illusion of Freedom, is that the Constitution doesn't enumerate powers of what the government can do. It says what you can't do. I mean, that's really what the purpose of the document's for, right?
Exactly. And in fact, the Bill of Rights especially, which is 2 years after the main Constitution, 1789, 1791, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, were exact prohibitions basically saying to the federal government, okay, under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 through 18, we've given you all this power. But remember, you don't have these powers listed in the Bill of Rights, the first one being Congress shall make no law regarding freedom of speech, freedom of press, religion, etc. So the Founding Fathers were quick to put limits on the federal government. I underline the word federal government only.
And when did this really start? When did we really see to start the legislative branch and all three branches of government, stray away from enumerated powers? The 1930s, correct?
Well, yeah, that's kind of when it became nothing to hide anymore. Yeah. And it was done no longer on the QT. They talked about legal fictions. That's the euphemism they used to somehow glorify it and sanction it as appropriate. But since the 30s, that's right, Congress with the Supreme Court with the aid of Congress has basically taken over.
And there's kind of two schools of thought coming back to this general welfare clause. There's the James Madison approach and the Alexander Hamilton approach. James Madison was more of a traditionalist when it comes to it. Alexander Hamilton, he was argued for a broad interpretation of the general welfare clause. Where do you stand on that, Richard?
Well, again, I side with Thomas Jefferson because, again, if you, as I think I need his words again, Thomas Jefferson said, to take a single step beyond the boundaries thus specially drawn around the powers of Congress, that is 1 through 18, is to take possession of a boundless field of power, no longer susceptible of any definition. And I agree with that as soon as you make that first step, you're into a boundless field of power, which is clearly not what the Founding Fathers intended.
And ultimately, a lot of textualists and originalists, agree with that Thomas Jefferson's view that the clause is a limitation on the power to tax, given Jefferson's opinion to Washington, the constitution of a national bank, right? And the national bank, that's where a lot of that came from.
Well, and you see, this goes to show how brilliant, at least most people think, brilliant Chief Justice Marshall was, because in the McCulloch versus Maryland case, the 1819 case, where it was the conversation or the issue was incorporating a federal bank, Thomas Jefferson argued, we don't need them, they're not necessary, we're doing fine with state banks. But John Marshall argued, number one, you're right, it doesn't exist in Article 1, Section 8. Number one, the creation of a bank, we don't have.
Not one of the 17 enumerated powers.
Exactly. And further, even more so, there's no such thing as incorporation of a bank. However, we think that it's really kind of convenient for the federal government to have that power, and therefore they do.
And one of these enumerated powers of the 17 from Article 1, Section 8 clause is that to provide, the Congress shall provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. And one of the tenets of that clause, at least theoretically and philosophically, is the Second Amendment. And we're going to talk about that right after the break. It's a very interesting court case out of Richard's great friends there at the Ninth Circuit.
Absolutely.
Leveled a great case, U.S. versus Torres, regarding gun control and illegal immigration. We're going to get into that case right after the break. This one's really, really fascinating. You guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let us know in the Facebook chat, or just hit us up on Facebook Live, or send us an email at richardnixon@crntalk.com. And we'll be right back right after the break talking about this decision of the Ninth Circuit, U.S. versus Torres, which was handed down a couple days ago. Stay with us, you guys. Richard Nixon live here in the Legal Lounge at CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. We'll be right back right after the break.
What are you
going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
And we are back. Richard and Nixon live here in the Legal Lounge on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world. I'm speaking with Richard Nixon, a noted attorney, broadcaster, scientist, amateur conga player, cornet aficionado. Check out his book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. A lot of the stuff that, you know, he's really educated me and enlightened me on a lot of issues regarding the Constitution, the legal authority of the state itself, and a lot of our listeners as well. We are talking about a very interesting case that came out of our friends, you know, the bastion of right-wing conservatives there on the Ninth Circuit. Just kidding. We're talking about this U.S. versus Torres case. Give us some background on this case, Richard.
Well, very simply, we're talking about the Second Amendment, and the Second Amendment, 1791, basically says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So again, what we mentioned in the earlier segment is that the federal government was prohibited under the Constitution to restrict in any way the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And the word shall not be infringed is very, very clear. However, as we know, as time went on, the Supreme Court said things like, well, come on now, we can't read it that way. There are limitations as to what the federal government can do regarding guns. In any event, we have a statute here that was applied against Victor Manuel Torres, and he was convicted for possessing a firearm while being an alien illegally or unlawfully in the United States in violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 922G5A. And the bottom line is that the Supreme Court, or excuse me, the Ninth Circuit, along with 5 other circuits, by the way, that have also come to the same conclusion, that it is constitutional to forbid people who are here illegally from possessing firearms.
And so this is interesting to me. And so just basically, you know, D.C. versus Heller, which has been a pretty seminal case concerning gun control outside of Washington, D.C. It tells us that the core of the Second Amendment, you know, this is the opinion of that particular case, is the core of the Second Amendment is the right of, quote, law-abiding, responsible citizens to use arms in defense of hearth and home. And once you're, you know, if you're in this country illegally, you've pretty much, you're not law-abiding. You're not law-abiding, and some would say not responsible. But I want to talk about something that's interesting here in this case. The court evaluated the ban on gun possession by illegal aliens under only the immediate scrutiny rather than the strict scrutiny practice. We were talking about three tests: the rational basis, strict scrutiny, and intermediate scrutiny. Explain to our listeners what this means.
Well, the Supreme Court, again, we have to underline the Supreme Court made up a series of tests to determine constitutionality of statutes. So if a statute is based on contracts, social things, business, the test that the Supreme Court uses is the so-called rational basis test. If it's rational at all, it's presumed to be constitutional, and the Supreme Court says that's fine, that's good law. On the other hand, if the law that is being challenged has to do with a person's race or nationality, etc., in other words, if it's part of a suspect class, as they call it, or a fundamental right, then the presumption flips and it's presumed to be unconstitutional unless the government can show why that's compelling. Why do they need that law anyway?
The burden of proof is on the government in that case.
Exactly. Now, what happens in so many instances is the court decides who they want to win this particular match, and they create, in this case, a third test. They call it the intermediate test, which basically says that, well, we need certain things to prove that this is constitutional or not. Frankly, this situation would have met the rational burden test, because they simply say here that the government's interest in controlling crime and ensuring public safety are promoted by keeping firearms out of the hands of unlawful aliens. That being the case, wouldn't that pass the rational basis test, it seems to me? So they didn't even need a second test, but they created one for some reason.
And Eugene Volkua, he's a professor of law at UCLA, he agrees with you. He's got issues with this as well, because the verbal formula it's used to define this case, this tiers of scrutiny, he believes that the strict scrutiny is narrowly tailored, to a compelling government interest, and that this intermediate scrutiny is substantially related to an important government interest. And so, like you said, it's the government already kind of decided what their position is going to be and tailor the rules to that.
Well, see, and again, these tests have created such a thicket or labyrinth involving. This is where the expression of "you need a Philadelphia lawyer to figure it out," because they have created such a morass here that it's almost impossible to escape this labyrinth without serious wounds. And again, they just create another case and more chaos. And the interesting thing is, this same issue has been before 5 different federal appeals courts, different sections throughout the country. They've all come down on the same side, namely that this statute is constitutional for somewhat slightly different reasons, but they're all consistent. So there's no need for the Supreme Court to hear it as yet.
And this is a fascinating case to me, because it's made people on the left angry and it's made people on the right angry. And I want to, right after the break, we're going to wrap things up, but I want to talk about some interesting citizens versus people when it comes to a lot of the language in some of our statutes, specifically the Second Amendment, you guys. So stick around. Richard Nixon here in the Legal Lounge. He's a scholar, an academic, a noted attorney, and author of America, An Illusion of Freedom. Available anywhere books are sold. Make sure to check out his website as well, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. Be right back.
You're experiencing pain, back pain, shoulder, elbow, or hand pain, pain from a sports injury. If so, schedule a visit with Dr. Michael Sheps, the leading expert in laser therapy for pain management. Call 310-873-4422 or go to drsheps.com. Experience Epic T, the breakthrough laser therapy system that Dr. Sheps developed to make you pain-free in less time. Laser therapy is a non-invasive, safe, and effective in-office procedure that penetrates deep into your skin without damaging the tissue. It perfectly targets areas of pain to promote fast, natural healing. Relax your muscles, ease muscle spasms, joint stiffness, and arthritis pain while increasing blood circulation. For over 25 years, Dr. Sheps has helped Olympic athletes and sports enthusiasts alike get back in the game. Schedule your visit with Dr. Sheps at his Brentwood office in California. Call 310-873-4422 or visit drsheps.com. That's DRSHEPS.com. 310-873-4422.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Hi, everyone. This is Fred Dreyer telling you about my favorite Italian restaurant. It's Angelo's and Vinci's in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's has the best pasta, the best seafood, the best salads, spaghetti, lasagna, and the most incredible pizza. And the chicken is delicious. Marsala, piccata, cacciatore, parmigiana, and more. For desserts, try our spumoni or our tiramisu, my favorite, flown in fresh from Italy. And the cannolis and the zeppolis are out of this world. Open for lunch and dinner, and don't miss the Sunday champagne brunch. Just $21.95. Are you kidding? It's all up the road from Disneyland at 550 North Harbor Boulevard in Fullerton, California. Angelo's and Vinci's, like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. Call 714-879-4022 or visit us online at angeloandvincis.com.
And we are back. Richard Nixon live, broadcasting live coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. We're here in a blustery week here in Southern California. Stay dry out there, people. And we were just talking about this U.S. versus Torres, where the United Circuit ruled that an illegal alien is forbidden from owning firearms. But this is kind of interesting because the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution declares that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And what's interesting that I'm seeing some people on like Reason.com on the libertarian side are saying that, hey, this case was poorly adjudicated because Mr. Torres here, he's a person. It doesn't say citizen. What do you think about that, Richard?
Well, it's interesting because that's part of the argument that the attorneys representing Mr. Torres argued. They said, we have case law that basically says that as people is defined, he would be included in the First, Fourth, Eighth, and 14th Amendments. That is to say, for instance, the Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons and so on. That includes illegal aliens because they are persons, if you will, or people. And his argument was, why are you treating people in the Second Amendment differently? But I think there is an argument for that. And again, the whole point of the militia was to, if you will, the right of arming, in this case, young men in our early history, was to protect this country. And it seems to be, it would be antithetical to arm those people who we know are here illegally also with guns. It would seems to me would be arming our potential enemies. So it seems to me, I think there is a reason for distinguishing people as defined in the Second Amendment and people as defined in these other amendments.
Well, I mean, it almost seems to me like it's a semantic aberration where, I would like to know what you think, and our listeners as well. Do you think that the founders, when they're drafting this document, when they said people, when they included people, I would imagine that they meant citizens?
Well, yes, to a certain extent, but remember, as far as I know, and we should research this case maybe in a future session, Mike, it's interesting that the 14th Amendment is the first time they talked about citizenship.
Oh, really? Interesting.
And that's 1868.
Yeah.
So whether it was just presumed if you were here you were a citizen, I don't know. We know, of course, that we had Indians, if you will, in our midst who were not treated as citizens.
Because they were sovereign citizens upon themselves.
Yes, they belonged to tribes, if you will, and they weren't taxed, so they were not citizens. But I'm a little fuzzy on why the word citizen wasn't defined earlier. But my point is, when it comes to the Second Amendment, I think at least we wanted people who shared the values of this country, whether you could call them citizens or just proper people, so to speak. There was a difference between them and people who were here illegally representing or part of another country.
That's going to be interesting to research. I'm going to look that up, and any listeners out there, who want to chime in about that or have, information about this and whether or not the founding fathers intentionally used the word people instead of citizen and why so that happened. So that's a very, very interesting case. It's I'm sure we're going to probably hear more about this case in the future. But good on the Ninth Circuit, though, for playing it down the middle, for not being activist justices.
And Mike, there's one other thing I'd like to say here now, too. It says, this was a unanimous opinion. And, however, the appeals court declined to decide whether the amendment's protections actually extend to foreigners in the country illegally, but said that even if they did, the criminal statute in question did not violate the Constitution. What they're saying there is this. On the one hand, we think that these illegal aliens do have some Second Amendment rights, but on the other hand, they can be prosecuted for owning a gun. So I don't see what's left of the Second Amendment if the second idea is true.
That is very, very interesting. Yeah, we're going to have to talk about this more. We're out of time, but thank you so much, Richard. Thank you so much, and until next week, my friend.
Let me leave you with this thought. Thomas Paine, it is the duty of the patriot to protect his country from his government. Thomas Paine.
There it is, folks. Thanks so much. Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
Which was most important because that was your theme.
Are you tired of hearing your favorite talk radio show sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows in crystal clear, high-definition digital sound? Well, with CRN Digital Talk Radio's 6 channels of high-definition radio, you can now hear all of your favorite hosts like you've never heard them before in CRN HD. The difference is amazing. Catch your favorite political hosts like Dennis Prager, Tom Hartman, Barry Farber, and so many more. Entertainment and lifestyle programming like The Robert Conrad Show, The What's Cooking Show, and The What's Cooking on Wine Show, all in true CRN HD audio. Sports, business, travel, food, wine, politics, there is something for everyone, and it's all available in CRN High Definition Sound. Log on to www.crntalk for listings and information on all your favorite shows. That's www.crntalk.com.
The radio channels. The radio channels. CRN.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. British lawmakers overwhelmingly rejected Prime Minister Theresa May's divorce deal with the European Union on Tuesday, plunging the Brexit process into chaos and triggering a no-confidence vote that could topple her government. Financial analyst Hillary Kramer observes Prime Minister May faced sharp opposition from both sides.
Some want a pure exit, like a divorce completely from the European Union. The other side wants a much more softer Brexit, and they want to be separated from the European Union, but at the same time don't want such stringent rules put upon them in terms of trade.
Kramer is editor of the financial newsletter Game Changers in cooperation with Salem Media. The government shutdown continues with no end in sight. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says workers not getting a paycheck are the victims of the shutdown.
As the Trump shutdown drags on, more and more Americans are getting hurt. Public servants have been working without pay. Critical agencies are unable to perform their functions.
But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Democrats' priorities are a bit out of whack.
Things that they all supported in the past, every prominent Democrat, they now oppose. So I would say this is a little bit of a challenging beginning to the new year, but we'll work our way through it.
Extremists stormed a luxury hotel in Kenya's capital on Tuesday, setting off thunderous explosions and gunning down people at cafe tables in an attack claimed by Africa's deadliest Islamic militant group. A police officer said at least 15 people had died. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attack. On Wall Street, the Dow by 155 points. The Nasdaq rose 118. The S&P advanced 27. Oil up to $52.11 a barrel. More on these stories at townhall.com.
All right, so you're for PatriotMobile.com. Patriot Mobile wants to know, what's your New Year's resolution? Why not find a better fit for your values? Big Mobile funds the big left, donates to causes like Planned Parenthood. Patriot Mobile does just the opposite. They donate to conservative causes every time you pay your bill. When you rather fund pro-life, religious freedom, and Second Amendment right groups with every call you make, it's easy to switch to Patriot Mobile. Most people save money, and they know that their hard-earned dollars are working to make America great again. Bring your own phone, keep your own phone number, buy a new phone, whatever it takes. Now is the time. Make a New Year's resolution to stop spending money with companies that contradict your values. Plus, visit them online at patriotmobile.com/Hugh to get your activation fee waived, or mention Hugh when you call 1-800-A-PATRIOT. That's 1-800-A-PATRIOT. Make a New Year's resolution today. Join the revolution. patriotmobile.com/Hugh. 1-800-A-PATRIOT. Mention Hugh. Get the activation fee waived. Switch to Patriot Mobile today.
A federal judge has ruled in a lawsuit that census takers may not ask about citizenship in next year's count.
Federal District Judge Jesse Furman said it was not unconstitutional to put a citizenship question on the census form, but that Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross broke the rules when he did. He failed to give Congress the legally required 3 years' notice. The judge also found Ross's explanation for the change to be unsupported by and sometimes counter to the evidence submitted. The lawsuit, brought by 18 states and 15 cities, contends the government is seeking to intimidate immigrants into avoiding being counted. The state of California has filed a separate suit, and the Supreme Court will take up the issue next month, so Judge Furman's ruling is unlikely to be the last word on the matter. Warren Levinson, New York.
U.S. wholesale prices fell last month, dragged down by a steep drop in gas costs, suggesting that inflation will remain tame in the coming months. The Labor Department says that the Producer Price Index fell 0.2% in December. News and analysis at townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters. The drugstore chain Walgreens is working with Microsoft to improve care as more companies seek ways to manage patient health, cut costs, and improve quality.
The companies say they'll work to improve care by, in part, using patient information and the Walgreens store network. The companies will aim to boost prescription adherence, cut down on emergency room visits, and decrease hospital admissions. It's all part of a broader trend as insurers and care providers are shifting their focus more toward managing care and keeping patients healthy, instead of waiting to treat them when they become sick. Bob Agnew reporting.
2 Ukrainian men have been charged with hacking into computers of the Securities and Exchange Commission to steal quarterly and annual reports of publicly traded companies before their public release. An indictment alleges the two men, Artem Radchenko and Alexander Eremenko, sold the information and used it to make stock trades in 2016 and 2017. Both men are fugitives. More on these stories at townhall.com.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
You know, they say in life we should savor and slow down and enjoy things. That's what our hosts Steve Andrews and Sally James do on Slow Living Radio. They do everything slowly, and they do it for you Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m., Tuesdays at 11 p.m., and Monday nights at 7 p.m. It's Slow Living Radio, the best in food, the best in entertainment, the best in drinks, including great wine. All with Sally James and Steve Andrews. Slow Living Radio on CRN.
These two nice little old ladies couldn't wait to get to church to take the measurements of the new preacher. And the sermon started, and the preacher took out against drinking alcohol. And the ladies smiled. And then the preacher took off against adultery. And oh man, the smiles broadened. They were very happy with what they were hearing. And then the preacher took a sip of water and started attacking gambling and all the damage it does, breaks up families, destroys people's lives. And the two ladies were happy as could be. And then the preacher said, now we've got to attack gossiping, telling tales behind people's backs, gossiping, evil. And one of the ladies said to the other one, now he's quit preaching and gone to meddling. I'm Barry Farber, Adrian Vance on our Newsmaker line, and now, for me, President Trump has quit preaching and gone to meddling. Adrian, you and I will survive as friends no matter how you feel about this. Something tells me we may be on different sides of this. The president wants to pull out of NATO. This is a direct threat to Western civilization, period, not comma. Your turn, Adrian.
Are you sure about that? Because, I've heard the Democrats saying that all day, but I didn't think it was authentic.
On Fox Evening News, they covered it very thoroughly. This was no little thing. It's a very big thing. And I think it is just, this could inspire a new Hitler. This could cause a new communist aggression. This is terrible. The United States is the linchpin. Those who can, therefore, must. Other countries can play a big role, bigger than they played in World War II, and none of them could do anything against the Hitler military machine, and they needed a strong America. Well, now you've got a strong America and a strong Germany and a strong Britain and a strong France and even a strong Estonia, Hungary, willing to fight for their freedom. But if America pulls out of NATO, the psychological damage, not to mention the strategic military damage, is unfathomable.
Right. I totally agree, and I can't understand. Well, the problem, I think, is that the Europeans don't want to pay for it. They think that we should pay for it. They don't understand how much trouble we're in. I'll tell you, the way that the numbers work, we're going to have another crash. It's just the way the mechanics of it works, and it's probably going to happen within 9 months or so. And Trump is trying to save the NATO because the Europeans aren't paying their share. And if we can't carry it forever, and if we have another big crash, and we're looking at a really big one when they try to straighten out the dollar, and I mean, I think Trump is making the right move, and the Europeans are just being boneheaded.
Well, one of Trump's major accomplishments has been to get more money from these NATO members for their own defense.
But did they follow through? I think that's what we're going to find out, that they haven't followed through.
Well, a lot of them have not followed all the way through. But if I owe you $100 and I give you $50, it's still a pretty good day for you, better than you expected. Too bad. But the idea of the president, it just bothers me that it ever came up. It is bad, bad, bad going up and down the perimeters of Western civilization.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Adrian, do you realize that one of our very first shows, but by the way, let me tell everybody who we are and what we're up to. I'm Barry Farber. On our newsmaker line is Adrian Vance. He's a teacher, a writer, talk host, broadcaster, written over a dozen books, 325 film credits, thousands of interviews. He is a scientist. He is an inventor, holds the patent for the fuel farm. Adrian, the mere mention of, hey, Americans, we don't need NATO anymore. Why are we in there? That stuff is all over there. It just sort of takes the heart out of the team that triumphed in World War II and has stayed up to the minute, cutting edge, new weaponry and everything. It is such a delight to wake up in a world where nobody is afraid of a Hitler anymore. Nobody is afraid of a Joseph Stalin or communist aggression. But all it takes to spread that fear is for the number one player in the defense of Western civilization to say, we don't need you. Why are we with you in the first place? I'm just sorry he did it. But one of the first shows you and I ever did, you really touched on what works. Now, living in this country with a liberal media, I understand why what I'm going to say now will come as a surprise, maybe a shock to a lot of listeners. Do you realize in Switzerland it is illegal not to have a firearm in your residence? You must have a firearm, and they have all kinds of parties and weekend rallies and everything, shooting contests. So that old story about Switzerland is still true. Prior to World War I, the German Kaiser made a state visit to Switzerland, bordering Germany on the south. And the Kaiser was invited to come out and watch some Swiss military exercises. And after it was over, the Kaiser went to the Swiss general and said, General, you have a very competent army of 500,000 men. What will you do if I attack you with 1,000,000 men? And the Swiss general said, we would all shoot twice. Well, the Kaiser decided to go through Belgium instead.
Yeah, right. Well, he was wise. Well, you know, the irony of this is that the Swiss learned the lesson we taught the world in 1776 when a bunch of our boys who were using rifles that were designed to kill squirrels and rabbits and so forth, were wounding all of the troops of the British. And when you wound a guy, it takes 4 people to carry him off, and 3 or 4 people to care for him anyway. After that, and you know, to get him on a boat to go home. And if you can knock down 20% of a unit, you have destroyed that unit because everybody's working on all the injured guys. And if you don't work on the injured guys and take care of them, then the regulars start shooting the officers in the back because they realize that they're just fodder.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember I think it was Admiral Yamamoto
Yes.
The Japanese officer who planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. He was very much against, the Japanese war hawks wanted to land troops on our West Coast.
Yeah.
And Yamamoto, who was Harvard educated, get that, educated at Harvard, poured cold water on the idea. He said, no, too many Americans have too many guns.
Yeah.
It will be too dangerous for us to send in a ground force. Let me just tell you about a dinner party one night, and we all talked about how we used to hitchhike. And when we were in junior high school, hitchhiking down to the beach, we would promise if we ever had a car and ever had room, we would stop and pick up every hitchhiker. Well, then bad things began to happen in America that were unheard of before, crimes, vicious, and we broke our pledge. I decided not to pick hitchhikers up. But one of the ladies at the party said, you don't know, the one you pick up might have a gun. And this idea occurred to me just in time to blurt it out. I said, you know, you all, I will not pick up a hitchhiker unless I am sure he has a gun. And what I meant was this. Well, whenever I'm in Israel, I like to rent a car and drive around. You see the Israeli military at bus stops all over the country, hitchhiking rides from maybe from one post to another, or from one post to home, or home back to post. And they all have weapons. And if I were driving alone, I could pick up 4 of them. And all of them, now can you imagine having 4 Uzis in the hands of 4 strangers in your car? I never felt safe, never felt safer in my life. I will not pick up a hitchhiker unless I'm sure he has a gun, such as the Israelis at the bus stops sticking out their thumbs. But you were the one who pointed out the ability of a country to defend itself if it has broad familiarity with firearms and knows to shoot, not to kill, but to injure. That's good military doctrine.
Yeah. That's one of the things that Pancho Villa taught the Prussian War College. Prussian War College was just in love with Pancho Villa because he used the adult civilians in a lot of operations, and they just thought that was all wonderful, but that was simply an extension of the kind of war we were fighting in 1776 and 1812.
Did you enjoy, or did you get a chance to look at the Attorney General hearings today?
Yeah, I did some. It was broken. I had a lot of calls, and I had a couple of errands to run, so I didn't get to hear the whole thing. But I thought it was interesting, and he's going to be approved,
Well, but what was so interesting to me is I've never in my life heard somebody being grilled by a senatorial or a congressional committee take over and just make monkeys out of all of his interrogators. He played that committee like a harpist plays his harp. It was great. Like one person said, regarding your speech at the University of South Carolina, and Barr said, it was a gem, wasn't it? It really set them back on their heels. I really enjoyed his fighting style. And he said something that is so interesting. He said, I'm 68. I am at the age where I can do the right thing without fear of the consequences. There's far too much truth in that. Far too much truth in that. Adrian Vance on our Newsmaker line, and we'll be right back with him after a medley of selected business announcements.
Lorraine, do you realize that your mother, my mother-in-law, Chef Maria, has been serving Las Vegas since 1949?
Yes, I do, Dennis. That's when she first met Howard Hughes, who fell in love with her cooking.
And in 1955, she opened her first restaurant on Fremont Street.
Yes, dear. And another great customer was Liberace.
Wow. Then in 1962, while Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack were causing global excitement on the Las Vegas Strip, your family opened their second restaurant.
And in 1972, Elvis Presley began electrifying Las Vegas audiences and eating in our restaurants.
You know, Lorraine, this is quite a town. There's only one Las Vegas.
And there's only one Bootlegger Italian Bistro.
Folks, when you're in Las Vegas, come visit us. We'll make you feel like you're part of our family.
The Bootlegger Italian Bistro, conveniently located at 7700 Las Vegas Boulevard, South Strip. Visit our website.